Ever pour your heart and soul into writing the best fan fiction you possibly can, but then when you finally post, you are greeted with crickets, a whole lot of nothing? Frustrating, right? I know the feeling. I felt the same way until I discovered a few simple tricks to attract readers that I am sharing with you in this short series. Even if your story is, objectively speaking, the greatest story ever written, that won't matter if nobody is clicking on it. I see it time and time again on forums on fanfiction.net where people complain about the lack of engagement on their stories, even blaming themselves as bad writers. This is not necessarily the case. In most cases, I can figure out why the story isn't doing well without even reading the story. In other words, the lack of readership has very little to do with the quality of the story. The most common problem is roughly the equivalent of going on a fishing trip in a bathtub and then wondering why you didn't catch any fish. It won't matter what kind of fishing gear or bait you use, of course you won't succeed this way. On fanfiction.net, finding out if your fandom is currently an ocean or a bathtub is super easy. Just click on any fandom you want and set sort to favorites. Some will disagree with this and think reviews are the most important. In truth, reviews is too heavily influenced by chapter count, can be just the result of a bunch of guest reviews all submitted by the same person, spam, troll, or other negative comments. It doesn't always reflect a high demand for stories in that fandom. Favorites and follows are both one person, one vote. Follows tends to be influenced by whether or not the story is complete. The point of following a story is that you will be notified when the story is updated. That is why I choose favorites for this test. Set ratings to all. Then set time range to published within a month. I choose a month because this is long enough to get significant results, but not so long that it may not be reflective of the current interest in the fandom. Submit and take a good look at the very first page. As a quick rule of thumb, if any of the top stories are single-digit numbers in favorites, it is probably the equivalent of fishing in a bathtub. There is simply not enough traffic in the fandom, and therefore, writing a popular story in that fandom is almost impossible. If a few of the stories are doing well, but the rest are not, the few at the top are probably well-established writers who got their traffic from people following the writer and not a result of traffic from the fandom itself. They did the equivalent of dumping their own fish in the tub. Unfortunately, those fish are only interested in the bait of that particular writer. There is nothing wrong with writing a story in an inactive fandom. Just don't expect much response if you do. Fanfiction is a hobby. You do it for the love of the characters, canon, and the story. Hopefully this test will give you realistic expectations of what kind of results you are going to get if you write a new story in that fandom. If you want to write something popular though, and you are not already a popular writer on the platform, it is necessary to write in a fandom that is currently getting plenty of traffic, and that is what this test is about. All by itself, this will not guarantee success, but it will help you avoid a guaranteed failure. If you want to become a popular writer on fanfiction.net, check many fandoms until you find one that you love, that also holds strong promise for a currently active audience, and click here for more tips.